welcome to another episode of Design in Progress. Today we are going to be talking about Wyrmspan, the sequel, kind of, to Wingspan. And I've been really excited to get my hands on this one since my wife loves Wingspan. And I'm kind of meh about Wingspan, so I'm hoping that it fixes some of the things I don't like and keeps enough that she does like it. Okay, so you understand what I'm talking about for the rest of this. I'm going to try to explain this game as quickly as I possibly can, really, really fast. So, you can, on your turn, do one of three actions. You can excavate, which is developing a row, adding caves to it, which means later on you can add more dragons to it. You can entice a dragon, adding the dragon to one of those caves, or you can explore those caves, which you activate abilities that are in between dragons and the dragons themselves. All of those also interact with a dragon guild that's in the center of the board that has a bunch of different little mini bonuses, and then when you go halfway around and all the way around, you get big bonuses. I think that's most of what you're going to need to know. So I think the best way to think on this is kind of a pro-con list of it compared to Wingspan. And really, this is basically just Wingspan with everything turned up to 11. There are more diverse abilities on the cards. There are more diverse costs for the cards. There are the caves that you need to put underneath the dragons before as you develop the rows. Those will give you either a one-time benefit, or you can trade in a quid pro quo manner some of your resources for some other resources. And finally, you also have these hatchling cards, which are more expensive to get out, but don't give you very many points. But as you activate them, the more you activate them, you eventually get a big bonus at the end of it. Another of the big pros for me is this guild board that is in the center of the table. It gives you little tiny bonuses as you continue to explore your caves. And every time that you go halfway around it, you get this big bonus, but they're very limited in how many people can get those big bonuses. So not only does it add a little bit of interaction, it adds these very powerful but diverse abilities that people get access to. And because there's a bunch of different guilds, it also adds a lot of replayability. And then the last few pros are changes that they made that I really, really like. One, eggs are a lot harder to get, where in Wingspan, it used to be towards the end of the game, the optimal strategy was just to get only eggs and just fill up your board with as many eggs as possible. And there's not a specific action that just gets you eggs now. Everything could hypothetically get you eggs, but it's much farther down the line. So it's a slower drip of eggs. On top of that, one of the other changes that I like is that there's no bird feeder randomized dice mechanic for the materials that you get when you gather your materials. If you need meat or you need milk, you can just get those when you gather material. Now we can start to go over some of the cons. The first is kind of a pro and a con, which is there is so much more in this game, and it's so much more complicated, which obviously a lot of the pros were that it's more complicated, but it also means that it's a lot harder for somebody new to the game coming to pick it up, and it's going to take them a lot longer. It's not a very high curve to get to, but it is a very steep curve to get to learning all of the abilities. In fact, we actually tried to play this game in one of the local game stores and got about 20 minutes in, and my wife, who I mentioned loves Wingspan, was like, nope, I am not playing this game. And I was so persistent. I was like, we are gonna play this game. I know you're going to like it. So we had to go back, rent the game, and play it again. Last night we got to play it with some of our friends, and some of us are big board game people, and we were able to pick it up a lot faster. But those people who hadn't played Wingspan, or those people who weren't huge board game people, were just completely befuddled for about half of the game on how it was working. But then by the end of the game, they were like, yeah, I totally get this. This is easy. So it's, like I said before, a very steep learning curve, although not a very high one. Another kind of nitpicky con is that, unlike Wingspan, the action economy from round to round is exactly the same, which means the longer the game goes on, the longer the rounds go. And our game with 4 people, which was a first player game, the first time that a lot of people were playing, ended up being about 3.5 hours long. And I could see maybe if you really know the game, you could do it in 2 hours with 4 players, but I don't think you're getting to the 90-minute suggested playtime unless you're doing only 2 players and you really, really know what you're doing. Lastly, and I think I've only bring this up because we just were talking about this, is that a little bit of the identity is lost from Wingspan to Wyrmspan. In Wingspan, there were very specific water birds that went in the water area, and foresty birds that went in the forest area. Or you'd have hawks and raptors that all did a very specific ability that was a through line. But everything here is just a dragon. And while there are playful dragons or aggressive dragons or helpful dragons, they don't have that much mechanical identity that as a through line. So the beautiful art doesn't really have any mechanical identity like it did so much in Wingspan. They did try to combat that a little bit by having a beautiful long book that goes into every single card and gives some character and background to each of the dragons, but it feels like it's a little bit of just overly set dressed for that part. As a quick kind of designer note myself, I think that we can take away from this, there is a kind of, I think they really hit the nail on the head on the amount of complexity that is here. While it's a lot to bring in when you are learning it, it allows for a lot of different interactions where A interacts with B and B interacts with C, and A also interacts with D and D comes back to B, and there's a lot of bouncing around of all of these mechanics and how they actually mesh together and intermingle, and they did that really well. I think also of note that they did a really good job of expanding and changing the things that made Wingspan great and getting to a point where they have this more deep, more complex game. And that sometimes you might make a game and it sells okay or well, and that you might be able to go back to that game 5 years later, 10 years later, and take some of the things that you've learned and add to it and make it even better. I think overall, I really liked this better than Wingspan. I think it's definitely a go out, try to find, get it. Just know that you're getting into a long learning process and that it's going to be a long game. But it's going to be a lot of fun.